Thank you, Madam Toastmaster, for that introduction, and welcome to all our guests. It's a privilege to have the opportunity to come here and deliver a second icebreaker speech at NPS Toastmasters. And, you know, it doesn't matter how many icebreakers you've given or how many speeches you've given, it's never easy to follow an icebreaker like the one we just heard. Notes free, hands free, that was terrific. So I'm happy to be here, and thank you, Carrie. To say that absolutely everything about my work life has changed since I delivered my last speech would be an understatement. The biggest evolution that I've had in my work life since I left Toastmasters has been the amount of public speaking that I give on a regular basis for my job. In fact, I do so much public speaking that I worry that I might be growing a little bit too comfortable speaking in public. And so that is why I've returned to Toastmasters. I want to remember things like the power of the pause. I want to remember to choose my words carefully, but not too carefully. And I want to regain some of those butterflies that used to torture me so much in the beginning of my journey here at Toastmasters, but they also served a really important and powerful role. And that was to keep me on my toes and to keep me aware of the words that I use when I'm speaking. So what has changed since I saw you last? One day, in the summer of 2015, our Toastmaster, Carrie Glenn, and I hopped in my car and we headed to the steps of the old Salinas Courthouse for the launch of Supervisor Mary Adams' campaign. I ran her campaign and we won. And for the first 2 years of her service, I was her chief of staff. And for the next year, as you can imagine, I wrote a lot of copy. I spoke on her behalf. I spoke to the media. I spoke at public meetings, and I created a lot of talking points for anything from information on local land use ordinances to making an argument to get something included in the county budget. But I also learned and discovered one day while I was driving my son to school, the most important part of that job and exactly what it was that I did when my son asked me, "Mom, what do you do every day at work?" And I didn't put too much thought into it before answering, you know, I help people. I help people out. And it's because I learned so quickly on that job that anybody, any member of the public that has to interface with Monterey County finds that to be a very frustrating endeavor. Fred knows firsthand what that can be like. So I quickly learned that what I was a liaison. And in that role as a liaison, I fielded emails, I fielded phone calls from constituents throughout the district, and it was my role to help them navigate the bureaucracy that is Monterey County. So while I ended that job after 2 very quick years, I did not capitulate. I have continued in a similar capacity to be of service to the public, and I absolutely love it. Immediately following my tenure at the supervisor's office, I became the interim executive director of Gathering for Women, which is a local nonprofit serving homeless women on the Monterey Peninsula. And I was able to help them secure $1.5 million in funding to open the only homeless shelter for women and families with children on the Monterey Peninsula. I also started working with state parks to enact a reservation system at Point Lobos State Natural Reserve and to start a shuttle up that would run from the mouth of the valley to Point Lobos to deal with the high levels of visitation and the consequential damage that's happening at the park. I recently started working on what's called a destination stewardship plan for the Big Sur coast and for the Big Sur land use planning area, also to better manage the high levels of tourists that are visiting the area. But perhaps the most meaningful and productive opportunity that I have been afforded happened just this week when I was appointed to the Monterey County Planning Commission. I believe that good planning is everything. It saves us money, it improves economic development and quality of life, it reduces environmental damage, and it conserves resources. I really could go on and on about the importance of this role. On Tuesday, I was sworn in, and on Wednesday, I got to go to my very first Planning Commission hearing where we approved a farm worker housing project in Salinas, and it was very exciting, and I love it already. In conclusion, I don't really have a name for what it is that I do. I would like a business card, so if you have any ideas for what this role is, please send them my way. I would love your suggestions. But what I do know is that my success in this work is completely dependent upon the clarity of my thoughts and the wise and careful execution of my words. If I can master that, then I can be a dynamic, effective, and motivational public speaker. Madam Toastmaster.